Boys and girls, today we're going to look closely at our fifth borough that we haven't spoken about yet, and that is Manhattan. Where is Manhattan in relationship to the other boroughs? You can look at the map below and look at it now where it is. Manhattan is often referred to by the residents of the New York City area as the city. Manhattan is the smallest borough, but it is the most populated of the five boroughs. Manhattan is roughly 13.4 miles long and about 2.3 miles wide at its widest point of the island. There are 12 avenues that run from the north to the south of the island, and there are over 200 streets that run east to west. Now, in 1624, Manhattan Island started as a small settlement at the southern tip. So here the Dutch settlers traded with the Native Americans. In 1626, the settlement was officially named New Amsterdam after the city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Now, remember, in 1664, England took over the settlement, and that's when they changed its name to New York. Also, did you know that New York City served as the capital of the United States from 1785 until 1790? This was after the American Revolution. Now, let's look back at this map. This is to show you what New Amsterdam, the southern tip of Manhattan, looked like in 1626. This is a map of a drawing of the streets of New Amsterdam in 1626. You will notice there's a fort right over here that the Dutch built to protect them. Also, there is a wall right here on the northern boundary of the settlement to protect the Dutch from English invasion. This area was bustling with people and animals roaming the streets. What were once the cow paths, trading posts, and fortifications of an early Dutch settlement is now a tangle of skyscraper-lined streets and the location of the United States financial power. There's plenty of history that can be found on these streets today. And I want you to notice the streets, how they sort of meander along, that this is how the tip of Manhattan still is today. So let's look at some old pictures and compare it to the same spot with our modern pictures of today. So Lower Manhattan has changed a lot since the days when it was known as New Amsterdam, but it's still possible to walk the same streets the Dutch walked back in the 1600s. On the left right here is an artist's depiction of the stockade wall that would give its name to Wall Street. Today, tourists stand in the spot where the actual wall stood right here. Okay, and here's Wall Street. Now, the street was built mid to late 1700s, and now we know where it got its name. That it was erected here by the Dutch in the mid 1600s to mark that northern boundary of their settlement. Well, why is this so notable? It's synonymous with the U.S. and global financial industry. What is it now? Well, it's a narrow street lined by high-rise buildings that once held numerous banking headquarters. Now, going back, here at the left is an illustration depicting the Federal Hall in 1797. Federal Hall acted as the United States' very first national government building. This is the location right here where George Washington was sworn in as the first president of the USA. Now, if you look at the photograph at the bottom, it shows the same view. And if you look back here, this is the new Federal Hall seen in the distance on Wall Street. Today, this building is a national memorial that you can visit. So it's right back here. This building is the same as this building. The illustration at the left now shows the view along a great canal right here. That led towards the East River. At the bottom right here, you can see it's the same view from today on the corner of Stone Street. And the canal has been filled in, which has now become a street. And this street is known as Broad Street. The canal in the earlier days right here was used by local traders and small boats and Native Americans and canoes to trade. And you might be wondering, why did they close that canal? Well, unfortunately, in the late 1600s, it closed to excessive um, amounts of litter and garbage, and then the boats just couldn't pass through anymore. So they had to close it down. And I'm going to actually go back to our earlier right here. If you look here, this is where the canal was on this map from 1626. And now as we go back to our present day, we could see it's filled in and it's now a street. Now here's the fort we mentioned earlier that the Dutch built, Fort Amsterdam, and it's seen in this detailed drawing. And it stood in Lower Manhattan from 1625 to 1790. Today, the Alexander Hamilton U.S. Custom House is located on this site at 1 Bowling Green. Here it is. It's a custom building. This custom building was used to oversee the importing and exporting of goods into a country, and it was right there at the port. Now, something else that is important to understand is the New York Stock Exchange, which is also on the southern tip of the Manhattan Island. And you might be wondering, well, what exactly is the stock market? Well, it's a place for investors to buy and sell shares in companies. It also serves as an indicator of the health of our economy. If the stock market is doing really well, then our economy is really strong. Now, let's look at this. This is Manhattan in today's modern day world. Manhattan has been described as the cultural, financial, media, and entertainment capital of the world. Now, when you look at the island here, to the west side, right here of the island, is the Hudson River. The east side is the opposite of the island is the East River right here, which is on the opposite side. And you can see how the Brooklyn Bridge is right here connecting to the borough of Brooklyn, and then Queens right over here. You may be able to tell that there are two clusters of skyscrapers in the city. One cluster is right here at the southern tip of the island, and then the other cluster is Midtown. Now, at the southern tip of the island, this is the area that used to be New Amsterdam, the New Amsterdam settlement, and now it is the home of the Freedom Tower and the financial district. If you visit Midtown, which is right here in the middle of the island, this is where you would find the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, Rockefeller Center, or the Grand Central Terminal. Today, Manhattan is home to many things. There are about 2 million people who live in Manhattan, and that number doubles on a particular workday. Manhattan is home to the financial district. Manhattan is home to Little Italy and Chinatown, just like we learned that other boroughs have a Little Italy or Chinatown. There's also one in Manhattan. Manhattan is home to Madison Square Garden. Manhattan is home to the Intrepid Museum. Manhattan is home to the Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center, Radio City Music Hall, and Broadway, all the different plays and theater district. Manhattan is home to Grand Central Station and Penn Station. Manhattan is home to so many museums, it's impossible to list all of them. Manhattan is home to the High Line and Hudson Yards. Manhattan is home to Central Park. Manhattan is home to the Statue of Liberty. Manhattan is home to world-renowned hospitals. Manhattan is home to Harlem. There are so many things that Manhattan is home to. These are just a list full that I came up with that I thought might be familiar to you. So let's look at Manhattan. There's so many different neighborhoods. Again, too many to list, but I just want to go quickly through it. So I'm going to start from the southern tip. Remember, Liberty Island and Ellis Island is down over here in the harbor. But when we're looking here at downtown, which is right at the tip, this is where New Amsterdam was, where the Dutch first settled, okay? So downtown, this is where you would find the 9/11 Memorial Museum, the One World Observatory, the Statue of Liberty, okay? Here you also would find the Brooklyn Bridge, right? South Street Seaport, the Wall Street Financial District that we just went over, or a ferry to Staten Island. And I also mentioned Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, which we're going to talk more about. Now, as we move further up near Chelsea, this is where we would find the High Line, the Whitney Museum, okay? And here's Midtown. Right here, Midtown, right over here on the west side, we would find Broadway District in Times Square, the Intrepid Museum, Empire State Building, Madison Square Garden, or over here on the Midtown East, Carnegie Hall, the Plaza Hotel, MoMA Museum, Rockefeller Center, and the Top of the Rock, St. Patrick's Cathedral, Grand Central Station, the United Nations. And then a lot of you might have heard of Central Park. Look how it's in the middle of Manhattan right here, and it's separated. We have the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side. The Upper West Side, you might find the American Museum of Natural History, Central Park, which is right here, Time Warner Center. Here, you would find like the Guggenheim Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art, the Frick Museum. These are just so many of the different landmarks that you can find, and of course Harlem, which is rich with culture, and we'll speak more of that. So here's just to give you an idea when you're traveling from the southern tip to the northern tip of the island. So let's talk more about Ellis Island. How far would you travel to find a better life? What if the journey took weeks under difficult conditions? If you answered whatever it takes, you echo the feelings of the 12 million immigrants who passed through these now quiet halls from 1892 to 1954. Ellis Island afforded the immigrants an opportunity to attain the American dream for themselves and their descendants. So here now, Ellis Island is a National Museum of Immigration. Okay, it is the country's official museum that records all eras of American immigration that came to this island to come to the New York area. Visiting Ellis Island can make many people wonder about their ancestors. When did my ancestors come to America? Where did they come from? What were the conditions like in Europe and then in America when they immigrated? What were their experiences as immigrants? So here's just a picture of when I was in New York City, and I took a picture of Ellis Island from the distance. Also, the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is perhaps New York City's most familiar landmark and the easiest one to overlook since it's only accessible by boat. This historic monument has welcomed many generations of hopeful Americans to our shores. Can you just imagine stepping off Ellis Island and seeing the Statue of Liberty? The Statue of Liberty enlightening the world was a gift of friendship from the people of France to the United States, and it's recognized as a universal symbol of freedom and democracy. The Statue of Liberty was dedicated on October 28, 1886, and then it was designated as a national monument in 1924. Employees of the National Park Service have been caring for this colossal copper statue since 1933. And here I am at the tip of Manhattan Island, and you can see in the distance the Statue of Liberty, which is on Liberty Island. Boys and girls, today I want you to watch this video to learn more about New York City and Manhattan, and they're going to give you an overview of the island. It's a great, quick 6-minute video to give you a quick view of what Manhattan Island looks like. Then you're going to have time to explore the virtual tour of Ellis Island. Click around. It's such a great opportunity to have this virtual tour. You can start at the Torch, the Crown, go throughout and see the insides of the Statue of Liberty. Also, of Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. So 2 of these virtual tours are something you don't want to miss. So click around, explore, and have fun learning about them. And then jump over to Seesaw. You have an activity just to tell us what you learned about from today. We hope you enjoyed today's lessons and have fun learning more.